welcome back to Marriage Month. We're doing a bunch of videos with our counselors as they give us tips on how to make our relationships healthier and better. And so we appreciate you joining us today. We are here with Lindsay Ellison, one of our therapists at CFS. And so Lindsay, how long have you been at CFS?
So just over 2 years, but full-time since September of 2019.
Okay. And we are glad to have you. You work down in Jefferson County quite a bit and in Webster Groves a little bit. So we are glad to have you down south helping some people down there because it's such a... So we're going to talk today about active listening and communication styles, I think, right? Okay, so tell me all about active listening.
Yeah, so I work a lot with kids, and so one thing I do with kids is talk about active listening, especially because, you know, communication with parents sometimes isn't the best. And so this can apply to relationships with a significant other, with a child, with a parent, whoever. So the things that we talk about is eyes open. So looking at the person, making eye contact, ears listening, which, you know, is sometimes hard for all of us, but especially kids. And so really listening to what the other person is saying, but also your brain is focused on what they're saying. So you're not just trying to form your next thoughts, your next responses. And I think that's something really healthy and good in relationships with significant others, especially because it can help you to avoid conflict. If you actually listen to what they're saying and wait to form a response until after they've completed that thought, gives you a little buffer time so that you can process it, but also hopefully avoid saying something you'll regret.
That is so hard to do, though.
Yes.
Because as you're talking, I always describe it as I'm loading bullets.
Yeah.
And then before you even finish, I start shooting off my bullets, and then you're loading bullets on your side, and nobody's really listening to each other. So it escalates the conflict. That's a great point.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to pause and do that, right?
Oh yeah, super hard. It takes a lot of practice. Another thing, especially with little kids, you think about kids are moving all the time. And so one thing we say with active listening for kids is keep your body still. And, you know, if you're a child and you're all slouched over, your parents are going to be like, you're not paying attention. So that's something for adults as well. It's, you know, try not to be distracted, whether it's with your body, with a phone, with some sort of other device. But also one of the big things is mouth closed. So again, not responding until the other person has finished what they're saying.
Yeah.
And then one of the big things that I say with kids is hearts caring. And I think this totally applies to adults as well. Remembering that the person you're talking to is hopefully a person that you care about. And so in order to show that you care, you're going to listen. You're going to, you know, focus on what they're saying and wait to respond.
Who knew listening could be so hard?
It's so hard.
But it's incredibly hard.
Yeah.
Even you mentioned sitting still. Even sitting here for 5 minutes sitting still is kind of hard for me.
I know, yeah.
Because I want to be up and moving around. And so listening seems really easy, but it is not. It is one of the most difficult things you can do. Especially in a relationship. And so you'd also mentioned communication styles. So people have different ways of communicating.
Yeah, and so one thing I see, I don't work with a lot of couples, but when I have, one thing I see is you might have one partner who is someone who just needs to get things resolved in the moment, and they just want to be done and move on. And then you have another partner who might be someone who needs time to process, and so they might feel like, I can't deal with this right now. And so I try to point that out to couples. I ask them, how do you communicate? You know, and so they'll tell me one way or the other. Sometimes there's a little bit different variation. And I basically say to them, like, okay, so you're aware of that and you're aware of that. So try to find a balance between. There's going to be some situations where you need to deal with it in the moment. You can't walk away, but there might be times where the other person really needs time to process. And so you can take a time out, but you have to come back to it. You can't just leave it. And that's something you taught me is like, hey, if you take a time out in a relationship, like conflict, come back to it and finish it. But allowing each other to communicate the way that you do, but just trying to find some balance there to hopefully avoid conflict.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, you know, what do you do if one person wants to solve it in the moment and one person waits to solve it? Is it just achieving a balance in one way? You know, sometimes we do it your way and sometimes we do it your way? Or what if a couple gets stuck in that moment?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the couple, but I think one thing is very clearly communicating, like, I'm having a hard time processing this right now. I really need to think about this, you know, because if you're just like, I need a time out, well, okay, like, that's great, but actually communicating, like, I'm having a hard time with this and trying to let them know, like, I need a break from this, but I do want to come back because this is important to me. So just trying to be really open with your communication with each other, but then also just coming back to it. And sometimes you're going to have to bend. I mean, in relationships, you have to bend sometimes.
So I had a client say it to me, I've got a thing, help me with my thing. And that could be, look, I'm a slow processor. Help me with that. Can we take a break? So I think that's really good advice. And it follows up on what Jeff Fabiano talked about in another video about timeout. So thanks for being with us today and sharing those tips. I think it's really good, and we appreciate what you do here at CFS. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back with some more videos pretty soon. Thanks.